Thank you for responding positively to our invitation to training in diplomacy, protocol, and Vienna Convention on diplomatic relations. Today's session will focus mainly on the Vienna Convention as it relates to diplomacy and more so protocol. Excellent diplomacy, in my mind, begins with effective and impeccable protocol practice to ensure teams rise to the high international standards in that particular field. Our teams, therefore, must avail themselves to continuous learning and self-development. Nothing else will take us there besides training. Therefore, it is against this backdrop that the management team of the Department of External Affairs ensures and remains ever cognizant of the fact that we must provide staff with the best training opportunities. This morning's session indicates that deliberate effort in that regard has been made. The combination of participants in the room this morning also gives a clear indication that we are not only concerned with our staff getting the requisite training, but we are equally concerned with staff of our supporting departments, ensuring that they too are at the same level with us as it relates to certain areas of training. Besides capacity building and continuous development, remaining a core part of our strategic objectives, today, with the pace at which sectors evolve, requires management teams to be ahead, way ahead of the game, especially with their training strategies. This department is therefore no exception and is taking every step to ensure we meet our merit needs in the area of professional training. The objective of today's training session will be detailed by the facilitator. However, I wish to assert that we trust this session will assist us in our desire to raise the bar in the area of diplomacy and more so in protocol practices. In the midst of scarce resources, the Department of External Affairs found it necessary to collaborate in order to respond to some of our training needs. The hope is, however, that by the ultimate result of today's training, this would mark the beginning of a long-term collaborative initiative by the two agencies. As we all look forward to commencing today's session, let me take this opportunity, therefore, to welcome the British High Commissioner, Mr. Steve McCready, Mr. Roma, our facilitator, staff of the British High Commission and Chevening alumni, staff of the Department of External Affairs, all other participants from the respective agencies to today's training session. It is anticipated that you will not only leave with increased knowledge, but will also be motivated and rejuvenated to be the best version of self during the execution of your duties as we move along. Finally, allow me to give you a gentle reminder. Most, if not all, facilitators do an excellent job in delivering their training. However, the true value of that training is when we the trainees have taken the information and knowledge obtained therein and inculcate that into our day-to-day operations in order to bring value first to self and to our wider corporate environment.
I'm starting my brief remarks by really thanking the British High Commissioner, Debbie, Steve, in particular, for taking an idea that we've had for a while and making it a reality. I think I stated very early on, perhaps in my first presentation to Parliament on the work of this ministry, that I wanted to see us start a diplomatic academy. I'll explain a little bit what is in my mind about this, but clearly this is something that we will create together. So it's a vision which I would like to share, and hopefully by the end of today we will perhaps catch on to it, some of us who have not, maybe all of us have already, but to begin to give shape to what it can look like. So I did express that to Debbie very early on, even before Steve came on board as the resident British High Commissioner. And Debbie arranged for me to go to the Foreign and Commonwealth Office on one of my early visits to the UK, and I was able to sit with persons from your diplomatic academy at the UK, in the UK, which I believe is only about 3 or 4 years since it's formally established. And I was able to have discussions with them. And by the time Steve came to be appointed, you had already mentioned that vision to him, Debbie. And I'm so happy when I got the email from you saying that you had contacted Miss President Oromo. She had contacted you, however it happened. And dialogue that started on many different fronts and levels today has culminated in what we are seeing here today. Of course, this vision has been shared with staff at a number of our meetings, so I'm happy that minds collectively are meeting on this today. Now, what do I mean when I talk about a diplomatic academy within our ministry? I know Steve is going to talk about what is a diplomatic academy. He might be doing that from the UK perspective or from a general perspective, but it's important for us to know or to begin to reflect on what it could mean in our context. When we speak of the word academy, people are thinking of a big institution, right? I necessarily haven't thought about a big institution or even an institution. What I'm thinking about is something that can provide training, good quality, exceptional training, that can have structure, that can have focus, that can meet the expectations of all staff or stakeholders, that can provide staff and stakeholders with certainty in a career path, in developing skills, expertise, and knowledge in particular subject fields, that staff themselves can become so well trained that they can impart training to others. And I've come to realize in my life that some things can happen without structure. They might not happen very well, or they may happen well enough. But there are some things, unless you put structure to them, they'll never happen. And I think this is one of the areas, certainly within the Department of External Affairs, that unless we put structure to it and create it as an entity in and of itself, it will not happen, and staff will be short-changed, staff and stakeholders. So I just want to say how very excited I am today that we're setting the stage here. We're receiving training, we're getting an idea of what a diplomatic academy can look like. At the end of the training, we will say whether this is something we want. And even if it be located within the Department of External Affairs, it's for all stakeholders and all St. Lucians who are interested in knowing and learning more about diplomacy. There are many ways a tree can grow. You can be eating a tamarind, maybe a sweet tamarind, not a sour one, and you can throw the seed outside of your window. You're not littering if you throw a tamarind seed, right? And that seed might grow. You might have had no intention of planting a tree, but you just threw the seed out of the window. It's something you normally do. A child might be walking and eating a fruit, and the seed inadvertently falls, and the child doesn't even know the seed has fallen. Or you can go out there and purposely plant a tree. What will determine whether or not that tree grows, of course, is the quality of the seed, the quality of the soil, and everything else that a tree needs to grow. But I'm just making that point to say some things happen and some things grow inadvertently, purposely, or because they were destined to happen, and it happened even without anyone consciously doing it. But the size of the tree is not determined by the size of its fruit, of its seed. Look at the mustard tree, as we know. It's the smallest of seeds, but it grows one of the biggest trees. I don't know how many persons have seen a mustard seed, but I've been able to see one, and I couldn't believe you could hardly see it on your finger. And that's one of the biggest trees that grows. I'm just drawing that analogy to say, again, the word academy, sometimes people find it daunting. How can we have an academy? It's about the quality of the seed that goes in will determine what the size of the tree is. So we're thinking of this as an in-house mechanism where we can have the best training for our staff, bring the best resources together, create the best structure we can possibly create so we can reach out and provide the kind of support, information, and training that we need across the board in St. Lucia. This seed can be small today, but we have no idea where this can grow into the future. And that is how I'd like us to approach this, with open minds and dare to walk on the water and see where it leads us. I want to just reflect a little bit on some of the things that the DPS said, in fact, one thing in particular, and to just backtrack a bit to say that a good diplomat or a good protocol, somebody who does protocol, the training is great, it's important, the resources absolutely are needed, but you present who you are. You cannot present to someone else or to the outside world what you're not. So it has to begin from the inside. We all have to develop the qualities on the inside so that the training, the resources, and all the skills we'll be given can be properly reflected on the outside. And I don't know if you've heard of the Synergy program that we've launched in Cassery Central sometime in June. One of the new programs that we've added is a program called Finishing and Diplomacy. And the finishing part is, I don't know if you've heard of finishing schools overseas where they aim to give young men and women polish, I guess on the inside and on the outside. But our theme is, for the finishing part of our program, finishing begins on the inside. Because it's really easy to get out from your kitchen or get out from your garden, bathe, and go down and buy a dress and put on. You can look perfect on the outside. Nowadays, we can have wigs, we can have nails, we can have anything to look perfect on the outside. That can take half an hour or 1 hour if you have an expert to do it for you. But the finishing on the inside is a job of a lifetime. And so we see that Finishing and Diplomacy program as a junior program to the Diplomatic Academy, so that we will reach out to children in schools, persons in high school, and begin the finishing from early. We know what it's like when you try to bend an old tree, it might break. So we really believe finishing has to start from as young as possible. I'm saying this to show how important it would be to develop the Diplomatic Academy within our ministry so that we can be the resource persons teaching those who are younger. So 5-10 years from now, St. Lucia will have the best or among the best diplomats in the world, and we will have a wide cadre of persons to choose from because we would have started the work from way before. And we have excellent persons working with us. The government of the UK, the British High Commissioner's Office, has taken such an interest in this that they have taken the lead to organize this with us here today. And we're hoping that this is a partnership that will continue. Of course, we're making baby steps. You've been there way before us. And even though your own academy has taken shape just 4 years, you've been doing this a long time. So you've had to put structure to something that was already happening, but the structure had to be put. And so this is what we're doing here today, and we just want to say, at times, you will have to lead us. You will have to continue to lead us. And we're hoping that with your help, with your support, we can reach out to all of those other agencies who are not just here locally, regionally, and internationally, so that we can bring the best training, expertise, and resources to our people here in St. Lucia. So I do want to say I perhaps have done more than brief remarks, but I have to apologize because I was so excited about this training that I didn't realize it was on a Monday, which is indeed cabinet. So I really want to apologize for that. Sometimes my staff need to remind me even of what is obvious. That should have been so obvious to me, but I missed the fact that it wasn't a Monday. So I will have to leave, but I will try to be back for the wrap-up because I'm excited to hear what your reflections and ideas are after we have concluded this training, and to see how, if you wish us to take this far together, whether this vision can indeed become a reality. So thank you very much, and do have a very, very successful day. And thank you, Steve. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Mrs. Aroma, for making this possible. Thanks.